is everything up?
Everything should be good.
All right, so I guess let's start. So I think a lot of your students are already familiar with your story of, starting off in medicine and then transitioning off into a teaching profession. But for those of us that aren't familiar with that story, would you mind telling us how you went from medicine to teaching?
Sure. So I graduated from the U of M, and my initial route was med school or physician assistant school. And then on the side, I always did tutoring. So, and I've always thought about teaching and when I actually first did. So right out of college, I got a job at Abbott Northwestern working with kind of anesthesiologists and surgeons, kind of being their assistant in whatever capacity they needed. It was a bunch of 22 to 29-year-old, pretty much in our younger 20s, trying to build med school resumes or get into nursing or PA school or whatever it might be. So I did that right away. And learned the whole trick of the trade, and it was pretty intense right away. Not from a standpoint of it being too over the top intellectually, just from an emotional standpoint for a 23, 24-year-old. Working in hospitals you hear about a lot of really, really good stories, but then you see a lot of things that I don't know if I was completely ready for. And then in the back of my head, I'm like, gosh, I've always liked teaching. I've loved school, and I'd been tutoring at the time of doing all of this. So I ended up saying you know what, I'm gonna try teaching while I'm young, because I like to be I feel like I could have a pretty big impact with you guys, and you guys are smarter than me anyway. So if I could leave my legacy that way, that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But then obviously the next step is coming up for me. And do you want me to keep going with that, or?
I'll ask you.
We'll get to it? All right.
We'll get to that. So what was it like for you when you first came to Mounds View?
When I first got here, it was dynamic. I liked the everything is, well, just in any, I think, first time you do a job, it's like this, right? And then once you get better at something, it slows down for you. So I was working every single night until 6, 7 o'clock, planning lessons to the next day, grading after I got done planning, and you're just going. And then the student life was fun. I had never seen pep rallies that cities schools do, so it was fun to see how in the gym and all the energy that goes on. But from a teaching perspective, I'm still learning how kids learn best, or how can I group with kids with different kids, or how can I learn the artwork of it. I have the science background, but it was more about trying to learn the artwork. And then now it's just kind of become it's almost second nature. And I can't imagine, giving it another 7 to 10 years, what it becomes at that point too. But it just becomes easier and easier. And honestly, I've never had, there have been bad days, but never a bad year. I've always had fun teaching. I think it's a great profession, but obviously I might be taking a different route now.
Yeah. So I guess this kind of bleeds into that. But
yeah.
During your time here, what's changed? What's different?
I think. Gosh, from what perspective? Can I be as open and honest as?
Yeah.
I think things have changed for the better and for the worse in many capacities. I'm not gonna go into too many of the details, but I worry about some of the expectations that we leave here, and it wasn't a drive. None of this left had caused me to second guess the profession or what it might be. It's just an interesting perspective of what's happened in terms of not only just student behavior, but even just the culture. And I think COVID had a lot to do with that, and not being able to have those cool pep rallies. And I'm not going back to the pep rally, it's just one example, but that community feel has almost started to feel, I guess maybe from my perspective, and this is only mine, but it started to kind of dwindle a little bit.
So
of course.
Just about in here, but so how would you say that student culture was different? Say 5 or 6 years ago than it was now? You said it started to dwindle?
Well, not there's the community feel, I would say, the part of belonging to Mounds View. And there's a lot that goes into that, we're PSEO, right? I mean, their kids are leaving the class to go, and sometimes for the entire day. So you have a lot of kids here, but kids start to bleed out and do whatever they might be doing. And then from even from the COVID, I think we all knew what a class in like 19 and 20 was. It's
Yeah.
logging onto a Zoom call, and then maybe I'll get some responses out of 32. And then you just don't get that interaction that you get like here. Like, you know, a lot of my students have played our game like top 10, and like just bonding about something like a dumb top 10 list and trying to beat your other classmates is fun. And we're trying to bring that back. I think that's good while we're in school, but it's almost been a product of kind of the situation, you know what I mean? It's nothing that any one person did or like a decision that was made. It's just kind of been part of like how, I guess, even high school in general is going. Not everyone's here all the time. Not everyone is set up to be here all the time. And
Have you noticed this happen before, like even before COVID?
Not as much. I think it made me think about it more. Like COVID just being like making me think about like, gosh, you know, I wish we had like time to, I don't know. I guess I can't really answer that accurately and
That makes sense.
intelligently. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess circling back to your like medicine on all that, what do you think was harder, like studying medicine or like teaching high schoolers?
It kind of depends what you're looking at. Generally, medicine. Oh yeah, learning, you know, organic chemistry and biochem and genetics but you know, that was more of an independent, like me, like having the drive to want to do something like that. Whereas this is more like I kind of referenced like, yeah, there's a science to teaching science, right? Like you have to be able to like deliver the information, but there's an artwork in trying to figure out how each kid learns best by, you know, like some kids love to read books, some kids like to actually be kinesthetic and doing something, some like to you know, like watch a movie and then try to relay it back down to their information, you know. So it's trying to balance 35 different like individuals to get them to a collective goal is just different. Yeah.
Well, you basically answered my next question. I was just gonna ask, what did you have the hardest time getting right? But it sounds like just getting the flow of your classroom.
The hardest, like in terms of teaching, yeah, kind of the hardest part about teaching is getting 36 students in one classroom to an end-all goal at the same rate. You know what I mean? There's just so many. Humans are all different, so trying to take that into account, work with each individual and try to meet them where they are and try to get them to keep improving is always something that will be a part of teaching, and something I don't think like computers or anything, you know, like we talk about like online school, like you miss that part of I guess almost taking doing a module online. Yeah, you might be getting the information, but are you getting it to your maximum potential?
And just before I go ahead and start asking you about what the future ahead lies in store for you, I just wanted to circle back just to the idea of culture again, because you seem to have a lot of insight on that. My parents, the people around me, they always tell me that, you know, the students at Mountain View, you know, maybe like 7-10 years ago, are really different from the students that come here now. Can you name like any other examples of them being different other than in just terms of community?
Other than just community, how are the students a little bit different than 7 to 10 years ago? You know, it sounds like a cliche and almost like an over-referenced thing about, you know, like our telephones and things like that. And that the access to information, I think, has been a blessing and a curse in its own self, right? You guys are great at finding and working independently and being organized and trying to get to what you want to learn. But with that, like with every technology, there's always that drawback. There are always some negatives with all the positives that go with any technology. And some of the negatives is that our phones are meant to just like take our attention away. And I just wish sometimes, like when I give free time, for instance, just as an in-classroom reference, if someone finishes something, it's 7 to 10 years ago, it was a lot more of, hey, let's talk, like what are you doing this weekend, you like, how's it all going, versus now it's our first references, well, maybe I'll, you know, see what's going on Twitter. And like it's tough because you guys like you guys, it's part of your world, you know. Like when I didn't get my phone until my first phone until I was 16 or 17 years old. I didn't even want it because I was like, you call me if you like. But my parents needed to reach me here and there. So it's not that you guys made. It's not like it's bad. It's just it's a different direction or a product of where society is going in general. And that's probably what your parents are alluding to, just because that has slowly happened. It wasn't like this dramatic shift of like, oh, we're all interacting and then now we're on our phones. It slowly happened throughout, the years.
So just one last question before I just talk about the future. What do you love most about teaching at Mountain View?
You guys, that's the easiest answer. Yeah, for sure. You guys, students are amazing in so many different ways. You all have, every day, people think teaching is like the same thing, like going through it. But you guys bring such a unique perspective and like a unique ability to any different project I might give. Like I might find out like a student is an incredible art or incredible at art when I had no idea. All of a sudden, I have them do a biotech and they create this insane poster, or someone's an incredible presenter that I didn't know, and the abilities that you guys have too. It literally is jaw dropping. Like some days you're absolutely amazed at holy smokes, there's no way I could have done this in 10th grade. Whereas sometimes too, just the opposite. There's never a surprise with students, but I love, this is the reason, you guys are the reason why teachers teach. And it's not just some cliche, oh, this is why we do it. Because you guys really are. You make biology, for me, you guys made biology and anatomy and physiology fun. Without it, it's just me kind of studying the stuff that I did before, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I guess I'll just move on to talking about what the future lies in store for you.
Yeah.
So I guess a lot of people, especially a lot of alums and a lot of people around the school, haven't heard the news yet.
Yeah.
But you're moving, and they're probably wondering why you're leaving Mountain View. So do you want to tell us why?
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons. Well, one, I was given an opportunity at this place called Batavia Biosciences in the Netherlands.
Wow.
And this is essentially, I'll be working with they're biopharmaceutical / helping with vaccine development rollout between different companies. But it's essentially something that I was given the opportunity, and the reason I was looking for opportunities like that is not just because I didn't like teaching. One, personally, I was ready to kind of move on myself, and then the other is I have a significant other that I met over the summer when I was traveling in the Netherlands. So we're going to be hopefully getting married here relatively soon and doing that whole thing. So it's a little bit twofold.
Yeah. Is there anything that's making you feel nervous about moving to the Netherlands? That's a big jump from America.
I know. That's what a lot of people ask me, am I nervous about it? And I'd say there's some nerve to it, or being nervous to it, but I'm more excited. I've always wanted to just kind of I just sold my house, selling my car, selling everything I have, and kind of just going across, and that's kind of exciting to me. I feel like I've done a really good job of building myself up to be a person who can handle situations, be accepting of change, and take chances. I preach to you guys about taking chances, or just people I meet, just take chances in life, because life's short, right? I mean, it's comfortable here, and I've had a lot of fun, and if I continue to teach, will I be comfortable and have fun? Yeah, but at the same time, I want to challenge myself and almost be selfish in that I want to try something for me as opposed to doing a job for all of you guys.
Yeah.
And it's not like I didn't like it or didn't love it. I did. I loved it. And there's no reason I can't ever go back. So it's for now, this kind of seemed like the right direction for me. And yeah, so not really nervous. I feel like I should be more nervous, but I'm not.
It's just not there.
Yeah.
And one final question before we head off.
Sure.
What won't you miss from Mountain View?
Oh man, this is a question where I suppose I'm not going to be around that long, so I can just lay it all out. No, I think this is probably pretty easy too. But this could be applied to a lot of different jobs. I'm not going to miss. I love being in front of students. I love teaching you guys what we're doing, what we're learning, being able to work with you and kind of show you some like transformative skills, how to work with people in a class, how to like challenge yourself, how to do all those little things that you learn through like any concept that you learn, but for me, biology, obviously. But I won't miss all the other stuff that goes on besides like being in front of the class, the meetings all the time. As useful as they are, parent-teacher conferences, they go until 8 o'clock at night, and I mean that's like just like all the other things. I'll miss a lot of the relationships I've built with colleagues around here, but just like in terms of like just trying to like do paperwork and all that, I'm not gonna miss. But that goes with any job too. So there's not a lot I don't like about this job. But at least I don't have to do a few things.
Well,
last message to say to anyone who might be watching?
Oh my. One last message. I guess, I mean, if I have been, like, I've always been about, like, taking risks in life. And I feel like teachers a lot of times tell us what to do and what to do and what to do. And I guess this is my my real life example of not being afraid and having confidence in yourself, and when opportunities arise, jump at them. You know what I mean? There are so many different avenues and ways to figure out how life works, and the older I get, the more life becomes confusing, but you sometimes just have to take that ship out of the harbor and go, right? And see what's out there.
Yeah. Well, that about wraps it up.
That's a good question. I didn't. Thank you. Of course. Yeah. Thanks, guys.